Hello, everybody. Let's wind down the week here and take a quick updated look at this U.S. Senate race in Maine. So here we've got Susan Collins. 2 or 3 weeks ago, she made it official. She's running for another term. She's been in there a long time. She's in her 70s now. Her popularity is pretty low. Plus, it looks like it could be a blue wave. And to top it all off, this state easily voted for Harris in the last election. So how can Collins survive? Well, let's see what we've got here. We've got a 14-second clip of her opening some sneakers, and she says she's running. So if that's not amusing enough, we've also got two candidates on the other side for the Dems. It's oyster farmer Graham Plattner and Governor Janet Mills. They're going to battle it out for the right to take on Collins. Now let's jump on Wikipedia here and glance at where things are at. So Collins' reputation is going to be mixed depending on who you ask. If you're a big Trump fan, you're going to think Collins is way, way too light. And if you hate Trump, you're going to think that Collins enables him way too often. She doesn't come close to being an independent senator that she claims. So it all depends on how you want to look at it. It's going to be the same thing for Joe Manchin or John Fetterman or Liz Cheney. But first of all, there are primaries to get through, and those are coming up in May, so we've got a few months. So it's pretty much impossible to imagine Collins not being the nominee. But just to take a slight snub at Collins, Trump has declined to endorse in this race. But Collins has raised a big 10 million, and she's in a tricky spot. She obviously needs a good chunk of the Trump base, but it's also a blue-leaning state. She's going to need independents, even some Democrats. So I would not want to be in her position, but I think that largely explains why her approval ratings are pretty weak. So a couple of polls here shows Collins dominating in the primary. Now what about the Democrats? Well, Governor Janet Mills, she's even older than Collins. Last I saw, her approval rating was okay, but it was nothing great. She's going to be the establishment candidate. Then you've got Graham Plattner. He's going to be the outsider, the populist, maybe the progressive. And last year there was a ton of controversy around Plattner and some of his old social media posts. There was all kinds of stuff about tattoos and secret Nazis, etc. So maybe that stuff matters to you, maybe you think it's a smear campaign. Either way, we've got the endorsements. And again, we've got a lot of establishment figures here for Mills. Plattner's got Bernie Sanders and some more left-leaning politicians. And as far as the money raised here, Plattner has clearly outraised Mills. This is showing almost 8 million. Mills is at almost 3. So throughout all the controversy and the shifting dynamics, Plattner is clearly ahead of Mills in the aggregate. There's not a ton of polling here, some of it's not recent at all, but Plattner is in the lead by double digits. Now this last poll has Plattner ahead at 64 to 26 over Mills, but the one before it from Pan Atlantic has Mills ahead by 10. It does seem like the momentum is with the outsiders. Plattner I at least think has some excitement behind it. Mills, not so much. So if we go down here and look at the general election polling, the recent one here from UNH has a close race between Collins and Mills. Mills is up by 1 point, 40 to 41. Against Plattner, then he's clearly in the lead, 49 to 38. And we could pull that poll up right here. The key thing is going to be independents. Against Plattner, independents pretty much line up with the overall result. 48 for Plattner, 38 for Collins. Against Mills, it's different. Then independents break for Collins by 6, 35 to 29. But a big chunk, 25%, are not sure. If the election were held right now, it would seem like Collins would go down. But let's remember back in 2020, the polling was totally against Collins. It looked likely she was headed for defeat. But on election day, she pulled it out, and it wasn't even close. So maybe it's a tricky state to poll. Maybe independents broke hard for Collins. It's tough to say, but the best thing Dems have going for them is right here. The 24 election. Look at this. Harris, 52.4. Trump, 45.5. That's a 7-point spread. All Democrats have to do is get anything close to this turnout, and they've got that Senate seat. So you can't totally count out Collins here, but it's really too early to say what's actually going to happen. Republicans could get it together. They could get their enthusiasm up a little bit, and they could make it competitive, and Collins could survive. If she goes against Plattner, I'm sure all the attacks are going to be similar to what we heard about late last year. And I'm sure Plattner, as well as Mills, would hit Collins on her lack of being an independent, too loyal to Trump. So who knows what's going to happen, but if you want to take a look at the markets first, here's the primary for the Dems. Plattner's well ahead, 78 to 22. So that's fairly convincing, and Plattner really bumped it up here as of late. The energy does seem to be with the outsiders or the populists. It's usually true on both sides, but we've seen it more with the Republicans. Maybe the Dems are going to start to do the same thing. But there's always a chance it could backfire, and it could turn into something like Carrie Lake. She was certainly the outsider, but she was way too controversial, and she ended up losing a winnable race. So what about the general election? Well, here's what we've got on Polymarket. Democrats are favored to flip the seat 72 to 29. So that's also fairly convincing, but it's not a guarantee. And we can back that up further by checking out Predicted. Here it's a little bit closer, 67 to 36. So this is an absolute key race. If Democrats want to control the Senate, they've got to knock off Collins. It's got to be real tough for Collins going into this election in a blue environment, in a blue leaning state. Again, there were similarities in 2020, but Collins got the job done. So as of right now, the most likely outcome is Graham Planter is the next senator from Maine. That's just based on the information we have right now. Could it look different in 3 or 6 months? Absolutely. The attacks are probably going to ramp up, especially between Mills and Planter. But as much as Trump Republicans don't really like Collins, they definitely are going to be pulling for her to win this race. But there's always a chance that Planter can get a few disaffected Republicans as well. So we'll have to see how he runs his campaign in the general election. But Collins herself is going to need a whole ton of independents and a few Democrats as well. So that's a quick stroll through this Maine Senate race. Let me know in the comments. What do you think is happening here? The primary, the general? Is it going to be Planter? Does Mills have a chance? What about Collins in the general? Can she pull it out one more time, or does she have almost no chance? How much do you trust the polling here? Let me know what you think down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.